My name is Lynda Gonzales and I'm 33 years old. My job is an admissions coordinator at Ameritech College. I do have a daughter that is 9 years old. My interest is spending time with my daughter, and I do a lot of crafts. I actually have my own little side business. I do crocheting, but I like to do a lot of craft stuff and just spending time with my little girl. What brought about the divorce? Well, depends on who you ask. My cause for the divorce was that my husband liked to gamble a lot. He also liked to stay out really late, so he wanted to live a single life more than I did. I was ready to have a family. He would say it's because I argued too much with him, but I argued about him staying home. So that's what brought about my divorce, and it unfortunately was going on for a long period of time, about a year prior to me actually separating from him. What I felt when I was going to get a divorce, failure, a lot of failure. I felt helpless because I tried to work on it with him. I asked him to go to counseling and he was done. He didn't want to do it anymore. So it was really a big feeling of helplessness and just failure in my marriage and life. So that was a hard thing to deal with. My fear and confusion would be with my daughter. My fear was that I would lose a relationship or any type of relationship with my daughter, as far as she would have hurtful feelings towards me, towards her dad, because we weren't going to live anymore. That was probably one of the hardest things that I had to tell. We had to sit down and tell my daughter, because I did make him sit with me when we did tell her. So that was really hard to see her heart breaking before my eyes. That was a really hard thing. 3 months prior to us separating, I lost my mother. She was only 55, and my daughter was extremely close to her. So telling her those two things within a 3-month period was devastating to not only me but to her. So that was my fear, is that she was just going to give up. She was going to she was going to withdraw, is what I was afraid of. The lowest point in the whole process was moving out of my home. I left everything behind. I asked him to leave. He wouldn't leave. I couldn't live in the house with him. Just living in separate parts of the home, it was impossible. I just couldn't do it emotionally. So I made the decision to move out of my home. I left everything behind. I took my daughter and her bed, and that was about it. So that was really a difficult part of the whole thing, is just finally stepping away. What I was hoping to end up with in the divorce, during about 6 months, the first 6 months, my ex did not engage in trying to keep my daughter. He actually was fine with me taking her every single day. So that was good for me. I was happy because I had her. I felt bad for my daughter because she was missing out on that relationship with her dad, because he did go into party mode, and thought that was just great. About 6 months after that, he decided he finally wanted to be a dad, and he wanted to keep her. And he did choose to keep her, but he was bringing her to me at 4:30 in the morning before he went to work, because he works an earlier shift in the morning. So that I never was okay with. I felt helpless, and he took advantage of that situation because I didn't have any legal help. I couldn't afford any legal help at the time. So that was the actual arrangement for about a year, is that he would bring her to me at 4:30 in the morning every week for a week. And I wanted that to stop. It wasn't healthy for my daughter. It was inconvenient for me, to be honest with you. It was the only one that was benefiting was my ex. And I thought that was pretty selfish on his part. So that was my only thing I really was honestly trying to get away from with all of the divorce, is just stopping that from happening. When we went to mediation, he fought it and he didn't want to do it. But we compromised, and we actually worked out an arrangement where his dad, who's living with him, is able to bring her to me. So he still gets to keep her overnight because he didn't want to lose that time. But we were able to work it out. We found an arrangement, and I'm happy with it. There are 1 or 2 nights a month that she'll have to still come to me at 4:30 in the morning, but that's better than 5 days, 2 weeks, 2 weeks out of the month. What I thought when I was hiring an attorney, I needed someone who was going to be able to I was going to need someone who was going to be able to stand up for what I wanted, to fight for what I wanted, to not back down, be passive. I really needed someone who was a little bit more aggressive, just because I knew what my ex was probably going to hire once he did find out I was filing for divorce. So I did need someone that was going to be a little bit more stern and knew their stuff. So I did do a lot of research online before I even chose a lawyer. I did go to one other lawyer, and I walked out of there knowing that was not the one. To him, I was a number, and I felt that. It's like I went in there, I had an hour consultation, and he was trying to type up all of my paperwork and my arguments. I think that's the right word. my complaints, right then and there within that hour. And I felt like that was not really professional. I felt like he was trying to just push me out the door, and he was ready for the next person to come in that had more money and more property value than I did, because I didn't have a whole lot. So that was a pretty bad feeling, and that actually was about 6 months prior to coming to Eric. And it threw me off. I was not in any hurry to do it again because I felt miserable coming out of that office. So it was definitely something I needed to do more research on. And when I came across Eric's name and his the website and his tutorials, I felt good that he was very straightforward. He was a cut and dry, I'll tell you how it is, not what you necessarily want to hear. And that's exactly what I wanted. I didn't want anyone to sugarcoat it for me. I wanted to know the honest truth. And I felt like he was absolutely that way. And when I came into the office, absolutely felt that way. It was a completely different feeling than going to the first office that I went to. It was night and day. Today is actually my divorce day. So to do this video on today is crazy because it is the day that legally I am divorced. If you would have seen me 2 years ago, it would have been I'm a completely different person. And it's been 2 years in the making to actually get to this point, and I feel good. I have a relationship with my ex. We have agreed to keep everything open and communication for our daughter. She is our first and foremost. It did take a long time, it felt like, to get to the point where we're at and being able to communicate, but I still go around his family. To have people see us, be able to communicate and work together, I think is a huge thing for them. And it's like, okay, it's gonna be okay, and we're good. I'm sure we will still have our moments. It's definitely a love-hate relationship at times, but for the most part, we put our daughter first. If I had any suggestions for anyone going through a divorce, it would be to do that. I mean, to put aside your personal feelings, especially when children are involved. You have to think what's best for the child. My daughter is doing great. She's thriving. She's happy. The best moment in the last year or 2 years was when my daughter finally turned to me and told me, "Mom, I'm happy with our life." I had waited 2 years to hear her say that, and to finally hear her say that only 2 months ago, I can't even describe the joy, because I am trying to teach her, even growing up, to be independent, to be a strong person, to know what you want in life and go for it, and not let anything hold you down. So it's really good to hear her say that. I'm thrilled where I'm at. I'm absolutely thrilled where I'm at in life. I don't have anyone in my life at this point. It is just my daughter, and I'm okay with that too. I don't need anyone here with me. I'm going to be okay on my own, and if someone is able to come in and add color to my life, then great, I'll accept it, but I will do this all on my own. The best part of my whole experience, and the part that kind of stands out the most, is actually we had gone through all of the proceedings, and it was time for me to make my big payment. And I called in just to make the payment, not expecting anything. And when Ed answered the phone, he, acknowledged me right off the bat. Everyone knew who I was. I never felt like I was having to explain my story to everyone all over again. They knew who I was when I called in, and that was a good feeling. It felt like home. It felt just comfortable and accepting, and it was a really good feeling. But then to actually have Ed stop before he even took my payment and not just take it and say, have a great day, go on your way. He took the time to ask me how I was doing. And that I wasn't expecting. I expected to have him take my money and see you later and thanks a lot. But no, he actually took a few minutes just to ask me how I was doing. How are you holding up? I know this is really hard for you emotionally. And that was such a small token of kindness, but meant so much to me. And it was a great feeling. And that small gesture it said a huge thing about the company and how they work. So I am very, very, very touched by the way that he addressed that, and I wasn't expecting that. So that was a very pleasant surprise. If there was anything that I would want to change, I would probably say, because my intention was never to have my daughter as full custody, I probably would not have put that into the paperwork when I first came here. Not because, I understand the reasoning for it. It was ask more, expect less, and I absolutely understand that. The toll it took on my relationship with my family, though, with my husband's or ex-husband's family, was pretty great. And it did affect my relationship with my mother-in-law, and she did get pretty nasty about it without looking at the whole picture of it's not that I was trying to take her away from him. It was that I was trying to stop the 4:30 in the morning. So if that meant that she had to come to me at 9 o'clock the night before, then great, we need to do something to change it. But that verbiage, it did a lot of damage with my relationship. Will it mend? Absolutely. And it's already actually begun the mending process on my relationship with her. But it also showed me kind of the true colors of the people who will stand behind me as well. So I regret it in a sense, but I learned from it at the same time.